Hi, this is Bruce from Handiwork. Today I'm building a custom-made gate for a set of units in beautiful Manly. This is going to be a classic design incorporating both tongue groove panelling and a small picket style feature which requires a third horizontal rail. The posts on this job were the tricky bit because they needed to be embedded into the sandstone walls on each side of the stairs entering the property from this busy street. It took a fair chunk of a full day to buy the materials, then very accurately cut out deep channels in the stone for the posts so that they would look properly integrated. I then returned to build the gate itself another day. The other unusual aspect is this gate opens outwards. This cannot normally be done because council regulations do not allow boundary gates to open onto footpaths or roadways and must instead open into the owner's property. In this case it could be done because there is a large enough entry area to allow it, and it worked well because of the stairs right near the gate position. I'm going to cover 20 things which are important about gate building during this video, including automated gates, metal gates, and what to expect when getting Handiwork to build your gate. In this particular gate building project, one of the owners has volunteered to paint the gate on behalf of all the unit owners. I'm going to move quickly through each of these 20 important points while you watch me building this custom-made yet classic design gate. I might drop in a photo or two here and there to show different styles as we go through if I think it'll help. Okay, let's get started. Point 1. Most gates are built in one full day. Some take longer, and double gates take twice as long and cost twice as much because of this. Point 2. In almost every case, our gates are custom built on your site, as you can see in this video, including placing the posts when needed, whether in concrete or bolted to walls, an existing fence or a solid structure. Building them on site ensures it is the correct size and fits between the posts with enough clearance. This prevents errors or ill-fitting gates. Point 3. All our fixings are normally stainless steel. You will see me using heavy-duty stainless steel bugle screws here, which if installed correctly, you could almost hang a truck off. When we use nails, unlike most carpenters, we always use stainless steel ND size brad nails so they last and do not rust or fall apart in a few years, as do so-called galvanized, which really means thin zinc coated nails. Our gates will therefore last, given they are kept well painted. Point 4. Typically we hang gates with latches and heavy duty hinges, which are often not stainless steel, but hot dip galvanized. They're strong, but still well protected from the rust because of the hot dipped galvanized methodology. Point 5. A popular twisted ring type latch that is often purchased from Bunnings is a problem latch because they are not galvanized or stainless steel. They are purely black painted steel and will rust up in a few years. Point 6. Lockable gate latches are available in stainless steel and plastic, but the Lockwood style latches, the rectangular ones that often go on the back of a gate, will eventually rust and need replacement because not every component inside those latches are rust resistant. Point 7. There are two main types of construction used in gates. The first one is a Z-shaped frame, typically used with picket gates but can also be used with simple panelled gates. And the second one is a framed gate, where a full rectangular timber surround frame is constructed first, and then the panelling is mounted inside the frame or pickets on the outside of the solid frame. Point 8. The strongest gates have a diagonal brace put on the back of the gate, running down towards the corner closest to the bottom hinge. If the brace runs from the top hinge corner, the person who built the gate does not know what they are doing. Except where it's a steel gate, because steel gate braces are okay in tension. Timber gates need the brace in compression, not tension. So knowing which way to install a brace is one of the ways in which you can tell if a gate builder knows what they're doing. As a side note, this gate does not have a brace because it does have panelling which helps keep it at right angles and stops it twisting too much. Point 9. Reasonable gaps are required between the gate and the hinge post as well as the latch post due to wet weather and rain causing timber to naturally expand. Bear in mind, unlike internal doors, gates are in the open and get rained on all the time. They need to be made so they can expand significantly when wetted. Point 10. If you are replacing a gate because a post concreted in the ground has rotted or broken, then if you want the posts in precisely the same place, the old concrete must be jackhammered out of the ground first, and that is a costly thing to do and should ideally be avoided. It has been done, but it's expensive. Point 11. When panelled sections of gates are wanted, the panelling type will need to be tongue and groove H3 treated pine, so it can expand when wet from rain and be resistant to wood rot. V-groove in single panel sheets are not suitable. They are mostly for indoor use, not outdoors in the weather. With the H3 treated pine that I do use, there is a need for a 1.5 to 2 millimetre gap between each piece of timber and around the edges. This is again so it can expand when wet. But that gap is not obvious because there is a 9mm tongue fitted inside a 10mm groove, and so therefore that small gap is hidden. Point 12. Picket gates, which are typically Z-frame style, and that means they're faster to make, and to some degree they can be cheaper. Point 13. If you were thinking a hardwood gate with visible wood grain, it is possible but problematic for clients because they need recoating with oil, stain or varnish every 18 months or so. There is nothing that can be done about this unless you want a rustic style grey timber gate. It just won't last quite as long as a painted gate, and hardwood is also a more expensive timber. Point 14. Treated pine comes in two forms. The yellow-green CCA treated pine, which does not need to be painted but is still fairly limited in timber sizes and finishes. And the second type is LOSP treated pine, which is what you're seeing me use here. This type tends to be the most commonly used, and if kept well painted at all times, will last the longest. You will see me applying primer undercoat to all cut ends or bare timber before final assembly, so it remains truly resistant to wood rot. Again, given they are kept well painted by the owner. Point 15. Typically, carpentry professionals like me can paint, but rarely do, because our hourly rate is higher than a painter's hourly rate. Or the client paints it themselves if they wish to reduce the costs. We can paint gates, but it's cheaper for a painter to do it. Point 16. Federation style gates, or similar complicated gates with complicated joinery or curved timbers, will cost a lot more, usually $1,000 to $3,000 more, because much larger pieces of timber, which are very expensive, are needed for the curved timbers, and a lot of it's thrown away. And the time to cut them accurately, then smooth the curves, is quite time consuming and therefore more costly. Point 17. Apart from some prefab or pool fence type aluminium gates, we do not normally get involved with metal because they need to be made by a metal fabrication factory. And those factories generally want CAD drawings for them to build them, which sometimes means engineers as well. They are most commonly welded, then hot dip galvanised or powder coated, so are highly expensive compared with timber gates. I have on a couple of occasions, this is point 18, I have on a couple of occasions built gates using pre-made metal frames with timber attached to the rectangular frame, but have pretty much stopped using metal frames because you cannot modify the frame at all if the gate is jamming due to posts moving or swelling in wet weather. Where with wooden frame gates, I can cut the edge of the frame and make it fit. I can reposition hinges to make it hang better, where a metal frame loses all that flexibility, and it costs more to use because it's hard and slow work putting metal thread screws into metal frames, and costs the clients more for no good reason. Point 19. Automated gates are possible when the ground across the gate opening is perfectly level or near level, but not practical or cost effective if the ground across the gate opening slopes, because the motor which drives the gate cannot push a heavy gate uphill. Automated gates require special motors, slide rails, concrete footings for the slide rails, electricians to get power to the gate location, 600mm deep trenches for the power to be run in, and an automation specialist to put it all together. We make gates which are sometimes automated, but we do not do the automation or electrical side. Expect a lot more money for such projects, typically $10,000 to $30,000 or more. And point 20. We do all our work on an hourly rate plus materials basis. We do not do fixed price quoting. This is because we are doing lots of shorter jobs, and doing site visits, spreadsheeting and written quotes often takes as long as actually doing the work. So it ends up making every job twice as expensive for our clients. Instead, we are happy to roughly estimate from photographs and descriptions the likely cost, but the final invoice will be calculated using the actual hours on the job plus materials, thereby cutting the final cost for the client down to roughly half of what it would have been if it had been quoted. It is all about giving you, our client, the best value for money.